Hello there. Is the claim that Brexit will force the UK to renegotiate over 100 EU trade deals a true one? Firstly, please subscribe and like this video to give my channel a boost, and I'm always uploading new content, so please do check back daily. Ever since the announcement of the EU referendum, the Remain campaigners have been busily informing us that the EU has over 100 trade deals and the UK could never match that, so we're all going to starve. And it's still being claimed today. But how true is that in reality? And a big thanks to the pro-Brexit website factsforeu.org for digging this information out. But to give you a flavour of the claim, the LSE ran with a story back in March 2016, well before the referendum, saying, "Leaving the EU would mean renegotiating more than 100 trade agreements." And it continued, "Who does the UK trade with? How much would tariffs be affected by leaving the EU? And how many agreements would have to be renegotiated?" In an article that first appeared at Bruegel, Pia Huttle and Sylvia Merler review the UK's trade position and conclude that if a Brexit occurs, the UK would need to renegotiate more than 100 trade agreements. But Facts for EU took a look at this, and I just had to go and research the data for myself to see what I made of it. So I toddled off to the EU Parliament website to look up their trade deals section. Now, the Facts for EU piece was written on the 8th of August, with the EU Parliament site having been updated to the 23rd of July. But it now seems to have been further updated to the 3rd of August, which may be why some of my numbers are different to those of Facts for EU. And looking at the list of agreements in place, we now find 77. So, not the 100 or more we were expecting, and we'll come back to those in a moment, as there are some other lists to cover too. Under the list of agreements being adopted or ratified, we have 24. Then under the agreements on hold, we have 23. But these appear to be inaccurate, as the EU and the US have just yesterday announced an agreement. So presumably that one will be taken off of the on hold list to reduce that one to 22 and added to the list of agreements to make it 78. But let's get back to those now 78 agreements, shall we? And this is where the term agreement gets a bit muddy, as most of these are not full trade deals. Take this new EU-US trade deal that was announced yesterday. Many of you may not have heard about it, and those that have might be wondering why the Remainer press isn't trumpeting to the hilltops that the EU got there before Brexit Boris did. And that's probably because of the limited scope of the agreement. And here I'll quote from the EU Commission press release. "These tariff reductions are the first US-EU negotiated reductions in duties in more than 2 decades. Under the agreement, the EU will eliminate tariffs on imports of US live and frozen lobster products. US exports of these products to the EU were over $111 million in 2017. The EU will eliminate these tariffs on a most favoured nation basis, retroactive to begin the 1st of August 2020. The EU tariffs will be eliminated for a period of 5 years, and the European Commission will promptly initiate procedures aimed at making the tariff changes permanent. The United States will reduce by 50% its tariff rates on certain products exported by the EU, worth an average annual trade value of $160 million, including certain prepared meals, certain crystal glassware, surface preparations, propellant powders, cigarette lighters, and lighter parts. The US tariff reductions will also be made on a most favoured nation basis and retroactive to begin August 1st, 2020. So it's not exactly wide-ranging, is it? But it does affect some tariffs. Now, as an aside, it's taken 20 years for the EU to get to this stage, by their own admission. Not only that, Donald Trump did in 4 years what Barack Obama couldn't do in 8. Anyway, what about the other 77 agreements? And this is where it gets interesting. Under the list of EU trade agreements, there are 3 main types. Customs unions, which eliminate customs duties in bilateral trade and establish a joint customs tariff for foreign importers. And there's association agreements, stabilisation agreements, deep and comprehensive free trade agreements, and economic partnership agreements. These remove or reduce customs tariffs in bilateral trade. And finally, partnership and cooperation agreements, which provide a general framework for bilateral economic relations and leave customs tariffs as they are. So, as Facts for EU point out, that last category of partnership and cooperation agreements can't have much to do with trade if they don't affect tariffs, so should therefore be ignored. But how many of this non-trade partnership and cooperation agreements are there within this list of now 78 agreements? Well, by my reckoning, there are just 4. And surely by definition they can't really be classed as trade agreements, so the list is reduced to 74. And of the 74, how many agreements are actually in force? Including the one with the USA, that would be 33. Just a third of the 100 claimed. But that 33 in force also includes 2 of the 4 partnership and cooperation agreements that I've already discarded. The other 2 are only provisionally in place. So that leaves 31 agreements in force. But how many of these are what is known by the EU as either association or stabilisation or economic partnerships? On this, Facts for EU says, this kind of agreement is akin to saying, let's be nice to each other and talk about trade. Even the EU does not describe these as free trade agreements, although it includes them in the overall numbers. And by the time you stripped all those out and ignored any agreements that are provisionally in place, you end up with, including the USA one, just 14 trade agreements. And of those 14, the agreements with Andorra and San Marino should be ignored as they are effectively part of the EU anyway. And the Faroe Island agreement should be covered by Denmark's membership of the EU as well. So what we're left with is 10 or maybe a dozen at a push in all. And they are the Faroe Islands, Iceland, Japan, Liechtenstein, Mexico, Norway, Singapore, South Korea, Switzerland, Turkey, yesterday's edition of the USA, and Vietnam. Also bear in mind that Iceland, Liechtenstein and Norway are part of the EEA with the European Union. But the UK does not feature in this list either. And judging by the mood music emanating from number 10, Brussels and the press this morning, the UK is not going to be added to the list anytime soon. Also remember that our Trade Secretary Liz Truss is setting up trade deals for us to use as soon as we leave the EU's clutches on the 31st of December. And at my last count in a recent video, there were already 20 agreements, worth some £110 billion annually. And they are expected to take effect on the 1st of January 2021, except for possibly Iceland and Norway for obvious reasons, which would leave 18. But there are also 18 other agreements in negotiation as well. Anyway, if you want to hear more from me, please don't forget to subscribe and also press that little bell, or you won't get any notifications. And if you want to see more of me, buy a mug with my mug on it by following the merchandise link in the descriptions box below. So what do you think about all this trade deal stuff? Please share and comment, and thank you for watching.